Coming up on TekThing, Synology's RT1900ac, the NAS crew made a router, crypto ransomware via ads, Apple's new 4-inch flagship, 3 awesome nav apps, and the Garmin GPS privacy plugins, and more. It's all coming up next on TekThing. If you get something useful out of this episode of TekThing, please consider contributing to the show at patreon.com/TekThing. We're brought to you by viewers just like you. Thank you so much.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we make technology behave.
Damn right we do.
Yes, that's right.
We also love shiny new technology, review products, we answer viewer questions, and we love to be a part of your technological lives. I'm just saying.
He's weird today.
Yeah, I was doing strange things involving internet connections and routers and servers. Oh my!
So speaking of which, we do have a Synology router in to review, but first, I think we should discuss something called malvertising first off.
This is, okay, so one more reason to run all the AV and all the anti-malware on the planet, or at least one single app that you update regularly. There's this crazy malvertising attack. Malvertising. And when you think about that, you're probably thinking like, well, you know, people go up on those sites with the naughty pictures, or, you know, where you download software that's been cracked.
That's where it's at.
Yeah. Let's take a look at Malwarebytes Labs. Did a great story on this, write up on this. Oh, is that MSN.com, NewYorkTimes.com, BBC, AOL, MyXfinity.com, NFL, Realtor.com, TheWeatherNetwork.com, TheHill.com, Newsweek.com. So basically what happens is somebody came up with a really interesting way to look for a lot of unprotected machines and then jam their crypto ransomware onto it by
malvertising.
Running it through advertising servers.
Straight through advertising. Yeah, so I would recommend using ad blockers in that case. Those do help.
Well,
you can also run antivirus or malware software on your computer, and then 64-bit browsers are not as insecure as 32-bit browsers in this case.
Part of my understanding though is what it would do is it would load the advertisement, and then it would search through a list of potential holes. So a lot of this is like, if your system's up to date, if you're running an operating system that still has security updates, if you're running you know, AV or anti-malware, it should go a long way towards preventing you from being stomped on by this.
Yeah.
But we'll put the links to show notes. It's an interesting read, and you know.
It's kind of scary that these kind of things happen on very popular sites. I did discuss this on ThreatWire last week in a little bit more detail, so feel free to check that out as well. But yeah, we'll put the links in the show notes about that news.
We can't put our content on their website. How about we? What can we?
Let's go through an advertising network.
Let's compromise an ad server. Oh my goodness. In any case, what we have here, actually what you're looking at is Synology's router RT1900ac, and I'm actually holding it in my hot little hand right here on sets. The Synology Router Manager.
That is so weird.
Well, okay.
I'm not very familiar with them actually making routers. So this is their very first router that they've ever made. They're very, very popular NAS systems.
Right. Well, if you take a look at the Synology Router Manager, it may look a lot like...
it looks exactly like their NAS manager.
Yeah, the DSM NAS OS.
Cool.
You know, the real kind of reason to be running this is, you know, I suspect Synology is going to be pretty good about updating this, you know, well into the future. And what a lot of people are, what really kind of sets this apart is going into the package center, is taking a look at the different applications that are available. And if I hit all here, the Synology server is busy. Well, what you should see is the download station, which is a web-based download app to allow you to download files, for example, torrents, a media server, which is essentially a DLNA server, you know, browse, play media files hosted on the NAS, which in this case is the Synology RT1900ac. What's really interesting, a VPN server that is PPTP, OpenVPN, or L2TP/IPSE.
Okay.
5 connections max, which is actually pretty good. A DNS server, if you for some reason want to bring your small business DNS operations in-house, and a Radius server.
Radius?
A Radius server.
Huh.
Well, it's an interesting mixture of applications, because I can see them being like, home users are going to want it, and enterprise customers that need some very specific tools to solve problems with small offices are going to want it.
Okay.
You know, basically, Radius is going to allow you to get your enterprise wireless security on. It's Synology. It's fairly easy to set up and manage. There are big, bouncy, bright icons. The Network Center lets you know what's going on.
Cool.
Pretty much, not quite in real time, but pretty close to it.
Okay.
But it's a really nice easy to configure. Do you want to turn off or manage your wireless? What's going on with your local network? The parental control tools are pretty good. And I like the basic status window is super simple and super easy.
Yeah, that's nice.
So if I go over here to like speed of me and start rocking that, you'll see in a couple seconds, there we go, some fairly decent real-time statistics and really clean and easy to read. I love the fact that you can be like, in a glance, okay,
yeah.
I know all my security, what's going on, the name of everything, and you can toggle down into it. 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, 4 gigabit Ethernet ports, USB 3.0, and an SD card slot on the side. If you plug a USB 3.0 device, it's probably going to downgrade it to USB 2.0.
And for people asking, this is the SATA drive that you have installed in there?
Yeah, it's an M.2 drive that I've been playing around with. Something that separates it from most of the other routers, 4 gigabytes of flash RAM. Typical router is like 128 megabytes, not 4 gigabytes. ABGN AC, simultaneous dual band Wi-Fi, all of the specs, right? 600 megabits per second on 2.4 gigahertz, 1300 megabits per second on 5 gigahertz. Beamforming from the 3 antennas, which is going to give you the best performance.
Yeah.
It'll run 3G or 4G dongles if you want to plug them in. Wireless performance, I think it's going to vary a lot, like many routers, depending on where you put it.
Oh yeah, of course.
And it's been interesting because I looked at some of the, SmallNet Builder and a couple other websites. SmallNet Builder, fantastic reviews website, and different reviewers had very different experiences. Most of them had pretty good performance. We've seen folks that put this at the top of their AC1900 rankings and closer to the bottom. SmallNet Builder was not real impressed with the speed, but they liked the apps. Compared to the TP-Link Archer C7 in my house, I kind of have two places I go to that are particularly difficult. One is the distant corner, and one is the corner, I call it the difficult corner because what I actually call it in terms of Wi-Fi coverage I cannot say on a family-friendly show like this one. Because my mother might be watching and she gets really angry when I say things like that in public. But it was interesting, right? In theory, it was delivering like 30 megabits per second compared to the TP-Link Archer C7's 15 megabits per second in the difficult corner, right? Except that it would not actually maintain a connection and DNS in the difficult corner.
Oh.
If I switched it to 5 gigahertz, then it stomped the C7 like a narc at a biker rally.
Yeah, of course.
But overall, actually, the performance was excellent, and in 5 gigahertz AC mode, outpaced the Archer C7 in my two basic test areas.
Okay.
I am not doing. I am learning a lot about benchmarking and testing network stuff.
Yeah.
So this is very simple stuff I did. 2 locations that are problem areas in my house. One problem area, fantastic speed, almost 3.5 times the Archer C7. I should double check the math on that. But the other location, significant performance increased over the Archer C7.
Cool.
So in my case, the throughput was excellent. I also haven't tested a lot of the fastest routers out there.
Okay.
Again, though, the real prime kind of area for this, it's selling for $150 to $190, depending on where you're shopping for it.
Yeah.
$150 should be about the right price.
It's a pretty good price.
It's about the apps.
Yeah.
If you're not thinking like, I want this stuff built into my, router. If you're like, well, I already have that on my NAS box, probably not compelling for you.
Right.
But if you're looking for, because we're looking around and we're seeing a lot of routers with 5 gigahertz that are, we've seen the first of the routers with 5 gigahertz being locked down. We expect to see more routers with 5 gigahertz being locked down.
And on that thought, too, I do want to mention, I just found this website called wikidevi.com, and it basically introduces a whole bunch of information about every single router that it can potentially search for. And on here, you can not only look at their different FCC docs. So I was able to pull up the FCC doc for the Synology router and look up the tested DBMs. So beamforming, of course, gives you the best. It's almost at the legal limit, which is great. But you can also notice on here, when Patrick mentioned, the whole open source thing and being able to put different operating systems on here, this runs on Broadcom, which is not the most friendly when it comes to open source software. So you might want to go with a different router if you're planning to do a different operating system.
Yeah. If you want to run an open source operating system on your router, you should probably buy one.
Buy one now.
Well, buy one that ships with an open source.
Your take on the Synology? Do you like it?
If it's about the apps.
Just the apps.
If you want the apps, go for it.
Okay, cool.
If you don't want the apps,
ease of use, apps.
Apps.
Awesome.
Apps.
It's got one of the friendliest GUIs I've seen for a router.
It is. It is really easy to set up. It is really easy to configure. But if you look at those 5 apps, you know, and you don't see anything you want, probably not the router for you.
Okay, cool.
I'm with the apps. I'm going to take the apps. Apps for 1,000, Alex. You are awesome. Seriously, you make TekThing happen by contributing small amounts per episode via patreon.com/TekThing. Crowdfunding is cool. It means we get to focus on making great content for you, our viewers. Our patrons get access to our special patron-only build videos, and early heads up on what's coming, and even monthly hangouts at certain levels of support. Do us a favor, go check out patreon.com/TekThing so we can make cool content for you instead of figuring out how to chase ad clicks. Hey, if you can't donate, no worries. Keep firing out your questions and your tips. Write us a review on iTunes. Give our videos a thumbs up on YouTube. Share the links with your friends. It all makes the show that much stronger. We love making this show for you, and thank you so much for being a part of TekThing. On the subject of privacy, I've been a Chrome user since day one. I've been looking at browser privacy, and I'm thinking about trying Firefox as it offers plugins to aid privacy. Can you recommend the best browser, privacy settings, or browser plugins to use? What browsers do you guys use? One last thing, I love the link Shannon added last week regarding Wireshark. Can you do a little on Wireshark to show what it is and how to use it? Is Wireshark similar to the information that your ISP sees when they log what you are browsing? Does a VPN used with browser privacy add-ons keep your browsing habits secure even from your ISP? Thanks, Anthony.
Okay, that was a lot of questions.
We use all the browsers between the two of us.
We do, yeah.
I primarily use Chrome. I use
Same
Firefox a lot. I've been using Edge some, although I'm not a particularly big fan of Microsoft Edge right now. It's early. It's ripening.
So you will find, I'm a Chrome user mostly, but I use all of them too for testing purposes for my job. But you might find this a little ironic, but there's a great article over on Torrent Freak, since a lot of people use ISP or VPNs for torrents. Does your ISP store IP address logs, and how long does that happen for? If you scroll down a little bit, all of this is public information straight from their websites or from some kind of law information. But Time Warner Cable keeps their IP address logs up to 6 months. Comcast has 180-day retention. Verizon 18 months. Century and AT&T are both a year. Cox is 6 months, and then you have Charter, which is also a year. Interestingly enough, AT&T did not respond when asked about this, but there is an ACLU document suggesting they retain their data for about a year. Yeah. So you will find that a lot of these American companies, these American ISPs, do keep that data for a long period of time. So of course, people are going to use VPNs for this. On your issue about plugins for Firefox, I would argue that you don't necessarily have to switch from Chrome over to Firefox.
All the good ones are available pretty much on both browsers.
Yeah, they totally are. So, for example, my favorites are Ghostery, Privacy Badger, HTTPS Everywhere, Adblock Plus, NoScript, and Disconnect. I can do a review about all of those if you're interested on TekThing, but I have talked about it in the past. Disclaimer on Tekzilla. So if you want to go over to Firefox's add-on page, all of those are available for free. You have NoScript, Disconnect, Privacy Badger, and Ghostery. All of those are basically do the same thing, blocking cookies and whatnot. HTTPS Everywhere is going to switch you from HTTP to HTTPS on any given website or server if they have that available, of course, and that's by EFF. And then lastly, Adblock Plus. Now, I recommend Adblock Plus over Adblock because there's all sorts of rumors, of course, take it with a grain of salt, that Adblock, the Adblock version, not Plus, was getting money for letting certain advertisements through, even though it was supposed to be blocking them. So there's that issue. Again, take it with a grain of salt. Now, for Wireshark, I would recommend watching some tutorials over on YouTube that I did. This whole tutorial series called HakTip, which is over on Hack5. Yeah, it's good stuff, if I do say so myself. It's over at youtube.com/Hack5, and I've done a whole series about Wireshark. I just wrapped it up, so you can find everything you need to know there. Wireshark is just, it's way too complicated for just one episode of TekThing, I would say. It's a network analyzer that you can use to study packets of data that are transmitted on your local network. Yeah. When it comes to your ISP, they can see what data is being transmitted to and from your router, like when your router is going to the internet, your internet's going to your router and then through your local area network, but just the router and up to the internet. They probably don't know what you're doing on your local area network, like within that firewall, within that walled garden.
Right.
Hopefully it's a secure walled garden. But Wireshark can.
Yeah.
So for example, Wireshark can see what's happening between one computer to another if we're
Right.
on the same network, et cetera, which is very, very useful.
A sysadmin at an ISP basically uses a tool like Wireshark to look at all of the packets, doing all of the things. Wireshark's just a tool you can use at home, although it's a very sophisticated professional tool.
It's awesome.
And like Shannon said, it takes a long time to learn. There's a lot going on there.
There's a lot to learn. It's a lot to understand. Yes, you can just like click around, but if you don't understand what's going on,
Right.
you're not going to be able to understand the theory behind it. Yeah. Now, a VPN can definitely help with covering your tracks against your ISP, but like we mentioned a few weeks ago, and we'll mention it again, free isn't always free when it comes to VPNs. When you look for a VPN, pay attention to what information they're logging and what their terms of service are, because if you're paying a lot of money, but they're not capturing a lot, yeah, that's cool. If you're getting a free service, but they're logging all sorts of data about you, might not be useful if your whole plan of attack was to block that information from your ISP. So, one's logging, the other one's not. Now, there are hundreds of VPN providers, so do your homework before choosing one of those. Again, we'll mention it.
That
It's
one
Privacy
Guy's
Guy.
VPN comparison chart has all
That's a good chart.
the things.
All the things, yeah. We
This
really
is pretty
appreciate that
epic.
chart. It's amazing. So, yeah, again, I hope that answers all your questions, Anthony. Of course, if you guys want to see reviews about some of the different privacy add-ons or extensions for Chrome or for Firefox, or you're just really tired of it, you can always let me know. I'm at Snubs on Twitter. He's at Patrick Norton, and we're also at TekThing.
If you've never run Privacy Badger or Ghostery, load it into your browser, go to
Yeah.
one of your favorite websites. You might be shocked and amazed by all of the stuff that's going on that you weren't aware of.
We should probably mention, too, there's a lot of reasons why people use VPNs.
Oh my goodness. There's always some pushback. It's interesting, right? Because there's battling going on right now over encryption and privacy, right? With Apple and the FBI. And every so often, I get some people only use VPNs for illegal things. Well, people use VPNs because they're trying to figure out how to get out of an abusive bad marriage, and they want to cover as best they can all of their searching activities, whether it's a divorce lawyer or a restraining order, or try to figure out what's going on in the services that are available, and they don't want to be beaten to death because somebody found the information, or it's people working to overthrow regimes in oppressive countries, or just people who don't want to share all of their information so they can be marketed to the 17,000th degree. These are all legitimate reasons to use a VPN. I just want to point that out there because there is a battle going on right now, certainly at the federal level, here in the United States, and it's going to get really ugly, whether we eliminate all privacy and all encryption so that all of the things can be available. I'm overstating it. Obviously, I err to the side of privacy and freedom, but I have grave concerns about what happens when you eliminate the ability to do things without being watched by all of the NSA eyeballs. Although technically they're not watching us inside the United States. That would be the FBI eyeballs. And
so they
no
say.
disrespect to any FBI special agents out there. I'm just saying. I like privacy.
We all like privacy.
I hope so.
3 questions answered, 3 reviews, 3 picks, all in 3 minutes. This week's Rapid Fire Roundup is probably tied to somebody driving umpteen hours to Can Jam this weekend. I'm not going to name any names, but I think it might be Patrick.
Yes. Although I ended up flying to Can Jam.
You did, didn't you?
I did.
So you just changed your mind at the last minute?
Long story. But you know what? The family's happy and I'm not divorced, and I got to go listen to headphones. This is a good thing.
Oh man. All right, are you ready, sir?
I am absolutely ready.
Go.
You probably haven't thought about them in years, but seriously, standalone GPS boxes rock. I spent a bunch of time driving the last couple weeks with Garmin's new Drive 60 LMT, and it is so smooth. Excellent guidance. I actually forgot. It's funny. Garmin's Lane Assist, which basically maps out the engineered mess in front of you and makes it really. You want that lane. You want that lane, Pat. Go to that one. There's a speed limit indicator. they can warn you of traffic cams, the driver alerts, free lifetime traffic included with it. Real Direction's pretty cool. It uses landmarks and traffic lights. The search works fast. You can integrate a wireless backup camera. The screen, you may notice, is big and bright.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's crisp and clear. It's 800 by 400, so it's sure ain't a Retina display, but you know what? You don't need a Retina display to drive from hither to yon. About $180, not cheap. But it's part of like between your camera, this GPS, an Astel and Kearns AK100 and AK Junior. I've been thinking a lot about the fact that sometimes a device that does one thing does it really, really well. So that's the MSRP price on that one, but it's good stuff. WAZE, ladies and gentlemen, got an update. Everybody's favorite community-based.
I love WAZE.
We all love WAZE. Everybody's favorite community-based traffic and navigation app that was bought by Google, just hit version 4.3 on the iPhone and got planned drives.
Can I tell you something that I don't want you to share with anybody else?
Okay.
So I'm definitely the person that chats with people on WAZE. What's going on? What's going on up there? Like I'll go to other people's pictures, be like, hey, what's happening? What's going on? Are the cops still there? I'm definitely that person.
Well, so you can now schedule a drive and get a reminder to leave on time based on live traffic conditions. As in, everything's screwed on 880, just like every other day. Leave this early. The WAZE traffic bar now shows the reason for a jam if one is known, like an accident or an object on the road. WAZE now mutes automatically during an incoming or outgoing phone call, and of course, bugs and stability fixes.
Nice.
Go WAZE!
Still free?
Still free.
Awesome.
Not free, but pretty slick. Well, free for the first 50 miles, nice interface, almost as good as the one on the Garmin Drive 60, is TomTom's Go Mobile. There are still paid nav apps, and they are still pretty awesome if you travel places where, well, the GPS works, but the phone connection does not. $19.99 for a full year. And I should point out, I can drive less than 5 miles from my house in the Bay Area, one of the most populated parts of Northern California, and not get cell phone coverage or data. Just want to point that out, because every so often people are like, I get data everywhere. You don't travel where I travel. Speaking of which, I'd never heard about this until I started going a little crazy in the last couple of weeks on GPS apps. Sygic? Sygic, or Sygic, is now available to users in every United Nations recognized state. Like, except for a few islands and Antarctica, pretty much all the world's land masses are covered. So if you're going to travel in Peru or go to work in Iran, this is your app. And there's a great quote from one of the marketing people there where they're basically like, quote, I know that Google introduced its offline maps, but users are still not able to drive from LA to San Francisco with that. Sygic can download a whole state of the United States for 330 megabytes only, so the memory efficiency is the prime factor of keeping it a paid app. So it's pretty interesting, and they have all the countries.
That's
like literally,
pretty cool.
You probably, if they don't have a map for it, there's a pretty good chance you don't want to be there.
I feel like I should use this when I go to Japan.
I'm very, I just hadn't heard about it. Thought y'all might want to know. Might be good for Japan.
It might be.
I mean, Navigon's also one of my favorite apps, but I like GPS. It's a thing.
I like GPS too. I remember back in the day when we had to pay for like way extra money to get lifetime maps with Garmin and TomTom.
Well, yeah, lifetime traffic included on the Garmin.
That's nice.
It's nice to have a device that just does one thing.
It is. It doesn't waste the battery on your phone.
No.
And it's completely separate. And as long as you're not taking it off and touching it with things, you won't get in trouble with the cops for looking at it and driving, which is very, very nice.
But it's loud enough that you can hear the directions, and the directions are intelligent. Turn left at the restaurant.
And by the way, I did mention I'm going to Japan. That's in May, so if we have any followers or viewers that live in Japan, let me know, because I'm thinking about doing a meetup, but it really depends on if I actually get some feedback from people that want to do that. I'll be in Tokyo and Kyoto, and I'll tell you about dates at a later time. For now, though, let us know what you think about GPSs, or if this is way old school. You can always tweet us at TekThing, at Patrick Norton. And
I'm old school.
We are old school. Both of us are. I love GPSs. At Snubs. You didn't really get the idea that you were going to get away watching this entire episode without us talking about Apple. I mean, I'm an Android girl, but we gotta talk about Apple.
Well, I am an Apple boy, at least where phones are concerned. I actually kind of miss OS X some days. Actually, I miss OS X a lot some days, but that's a whole strange, complicated story. In any case, Apple is green, especially where it comes to solar panels. They're enabling more better health care. The Apple Watch is now $299 and the #1 selling watch in the universe, apparently. And Liam the robot recycles iPhones now. Yes?
Wow. Welcome to 2016, everybody.
Yeah, well, it was great watching Liam the robot rip the faces off of iPhones and like suck the little individual screws down.
That's really cool.
Apple apparently kept hearing, please keep 4-inch products in the lineup. And they sold something like 30 million 4-inch iPhones last year, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Meet the iPhone SE, which is a 4-inch screen running iOS with a badass flagship performance kind of collection of parts inside of it.
Oh my gosh, it's so cute.
Well, it's funny. I've been using. I was using my wife's phone the other day, and about every other time I hold my wife's iPhone, I think, this is a really great form factor for a phone. The screen's not that big, but the phone feels so good in your hand. A9 APU and an M9 Motion coprocessor from the iPhone 6 SE, 12-megapixel iSight camera with focus pixels and True Tone flash. The camera apparently gets a new image signal processor, and it's $399 with 16 gigabytes, and a little bit more for the 64-gigabyte version of the phone. I was actually kind of...
So there's no 32 gig option. It's just 16 and 64.
I think it's 16 and 64. Let us go to models and
16's way too
pricing.
small.
Yeah, well, 16 and 64. 64 is primo, and it does come in the fantabulous new rose gold.
Oh, yay! Rose gold, yay! so very exciting. So when does it ship?
Orders start the 24th, shipping on the 31st. I'm actually pretty stoked to see what this phone looks like when it comes out.
Are you really?
Yes. I'm not going to buy a new phone anytime soon because, I have this one and I will be beaten to death with a hammer or something more frightening if I buy another phone. But it might be time to replace my wife's phone.
Oh, yeah, good point.
It is getting EOL'd.
Okay, cool. Well, what else did they talk about?
Oh my goodness, they talked about iOS 9.3. If you miss f.lux, meet Night Shift.
Wait, Night Shift? Cool.
Night Shift. Doesn't that sound familiar?
It does, yeah.
Automatically shifts colors to a warmer end of spectrum at night. Thanks, f.lux.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, once again, Apple co-opted popular software into the operating system. You can now actually lock down notes.
Cool.
Yeah, with password or fingerprints. Updates the news to make it more personal. Health is getting a ton more depth and information available in the Health app. And Apple says all the car manufacturers love CarPlay, and it's supported by something like 100 models. Like every manufacturer is supporting them at some level or another. And then there's the new iPad Pro. We took a big step in this direction with the iPad Pro. It was the future of personal computing.
You're right, yeah.
Everyone I know who's used an iPad Pro and Apple's discussion of the awesomeness of the iPad Pro don't exactly meet. Artists who love the pencil, that's one thing. Everybody else does not quite see it as the same laptop replacement that Apple's event did.
They will never replace my PC. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
It is pretty interesting. So they did a new one that's essentially the iPad Air 2 form factor, but it's basically a 9.7-inch iPad Pro with a 500 nit, I believe that's right, 500 nit display, which is stupid bright. They claim the lowest reflectivity of any tablet, which means they're gunning for outdoor use, professional use. 4 speakers, it's louder, and it's got rose gold.
Oh, gosh.
32 gigabytes starts at $599, tops out the first 256 gigabyte iPad.
Whoa.
And that's going to be $899.
Dag, yo.
Well,
that's crazy.
It's a professional tool, people.
Yeah, well, yeah, if you're an artist, that could be very, very handy and tax deductible too.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And for everybody who's been frustrated by entering in text on the new Apple TV, you can now dictate text to the Apple TV by speaking, including usernames, passwords, and apps.
Nice, okay.
I'm not sure I'm feeling the password.
No.
Speaking out loud, especially because I have children who might want to buy things without my permission should they, sneak into the room. But it's interesting. Not a huge. A lot of people were underwhelmed, but I thought the 5 SE was pretty cool. The 5 SE, the SE.
The SE, yes.
The SE.
Yeah, that does sound very interesting.
Yeah, the iPhone SE.
You get one for your wife?
We'll see. She may want more chickens instead.
Oh yeah, that's right. You have real life chickens.
Yes.
I forgot.
Yep.
I always imagine like Link running around throwing chickens over his head when you talk about your chickens. Do you like let Seamus run around throwing chickens over his head? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to give him any ideas.
Well, he did have a chicken perched on his shoulder when I left the house this morning. There has been no chicken flinging, but one of the chickens is discovering its inner bird and has been flying on top of the coop when it gets out, and then apparently tried to fly on top of the house.
That's awesome.
I'm that neighbor.
On to the emails. You can read the first one, sir.
Oh, pair emails, ask@TekThing.com. Hello, Skype for Linux was updated about 2 years ago, and the network has more or less dropped support for that version. So I would like to know about some alternatives. I don't need the PTS connection since I'm only going to use it computer to computer or computer to smartphone. Do you have any ideas? Per from Sweden. And Per, I do hope I'm saying your name properly.
I think it's like Peter, but Per.
Per.
Yes. I have an option, and it's probably like a very simplistic option, but try Google Hangouts. My coworkers here mostly use Ubuntu and other different Linux distros. We've had great success with using Hangout for video conferencing on our machines back and forth, and also Darren Kitchen uses it exclusively whenever he's on Daily Tech News Show, which is Tom Merritt's show. So if you're ever watching this show on Fridays, you can see how Darren's use of Hangouts works on his Ubuntu computer. There's no lag, it looks really great, so that would be my best recommendation for that question.
It just works.
Yes, it does. And we got an email from Johnny. Johnny isn't very happy with us. He says, I enjoy and appreciate your show, but your recent recommendation for a drone left me angry and frustrated. I always thought the idea with drones was that without any user input, they would hover and essentially wait. The Hubsan X4 requires adjusting trim. If you can get it right, it performs erraticate. It does not fly stable or self-level. So why on earth would you recommend it? Please explain why it is fun to fly, show it, demo it, or take it back. Also, the guard doesn't fit. Those accessories are not as good as you might think. From Johnny.
If I might make an analogy, you don't start a child shooting with a .44 Magnum or a .308 AR-10. You start her or him with a single-shot .22 rifle, or better yet, a pellet rifle or BB gun. Heavily supervised, wearing eye and ear protection, and you drill over and over the 4 fundamental rules of gun safety long before you go near a range or let the child near a gun, or an adult for that matter. Here's the analogy. Most of the quadcopters that can hover in place weigh enough and travel fast enough to do serious damage to a skull or a Shih Tzu or your neighbor's window if it should impact. Before you drop the check on a drone that can do 40 miles per hour, beat the snot out of a $40 drone and learn the fundamentals. I own 3 Hubsan X4s, or more accurately, I have one, my 8-year-old has one, and we have a spare for when we're learning something new. All of them have those guards we mentioned, the 10-energy batteries we mentioned, and we've blown through more propellers than I can really remember. Fortunately, they're cheap. Fundamentals. Hovering a quadcopter using pitch, roll, and yaw is a fundamental. I should say actually pitch, roll, and the throttle.
Oh yeah, throttle.
I'm still a noob. Well, it's funny, but I remember talking about Darren. Like first you hover, then you walk the dog, which is basically walk the drone around the house, right?
Yeah.
And then you progress through a bunch of fundamental skills. Bank turns are fundamentals. Figuring out how to fly the quadcopter towards you when the controls are reversed are fundamental. Again, see my statement about not killing the neighborhood Shih Tzus playing out in the park. Learn all that and more before you get a bigger, better drone, and don't expect to learn in an hour one afternoon. Like any other mechanical or muscle skill I could name, regular practice is required to maintain competency and excellence require a lot of time on station. Nobody learns how to fly a drone in an afternoon unless they're a natural, and I've yet to see a natural.
That's very true.
Half an hour here, half an hour there.
It's loud, but...
Yeah, we should point out this box of drones you're looking at were the ones that were used for Darren's Drone Wars cage matches. These have been abused more than any other drones I have ever heard of.
But they still work.
But they still work.
And they're Hubsans and the little cheap somethings or anothers. But yeah, we have the guards on them. The guards fit just fine. Like I can shake it and it doesn't come off or anything.
Very sorry if you got a guard that didn't work. But in the majority of cases, we have had great success with them. And they are a wonderful, inexpensive learning tool because I have seen people pull a $3,000 drone out at the park and immediately slam it into a brick wall, a tree, a car, nearly hit people with them,
Yeah.
There is a learning curve.
There is. It's a slight learning curve to handling even just the remote control, because the remote controls, they're cheap. So you have to figure out where your center is if you want to make it a motionless drone that just sits and waits for you to do something. You have to find that center of gravity for your remote control. Now the Hubsan, it does fly stable and it will sit in place. You just have to find that center. If you shift right or left or up or down in a really, really quick fashion, like if I just yeah, I'm gonna destroy the thing. So
Yeah.
it's not gonna work out so well. And again, with the guards, like I can even show you on this video that we have of this drone cage match. We had the guards on there and they didn't fall off or anything. Yes, we had some props pop off, but we were able to fix them because we had extras.
Yeah, and
Yay,
it's part of
props.
learning how to fly, and it's better to lose the, you know, 15 for $2 props than the $15 for 2 props.
So I will say, like, if you've had a bad experience with your Hubsan, that totally sucks. And if I were you, I'd send it back to Amazon because you might have gotten a faulty device or something like that. Yes, those things do happen. Like 5 to 10% of all manufactured items are going to have some kind of faulty problems with them. But from my personal experience and from Patrick's personal experience, both of us really like our Hubsans. And no, we're not sponsored by them or anything. We just
They don't even know
obviously
who we are.
we really like them.
Yeah,
They don't even know who we are.
I've bought 3 out of a pocket, and it was amazing for me because my 8-year-old who never focuses on anything was stopped vibrating and bouncing off of things, and actually, because I said, if you're going to learn how to fly it, you have to learn to hold the controls gently, and you have to learn how to do this, then you have to learn how to do this, then you have to learn how to do this.
That's cool.
You know, my little intense, you know, mad, crazy, howling 8-year-old who I love so much actually focused and learned how to do something.
Oh.
It made me fun. So I have a certain attachment to the Hubsons. Hopefully we have not offended you. But also, I got to say it, there are too many people with $3,000, umpteen pound, 45 mile per hour drones running around that should not be driving them. Start with something small and simple and learn the fundamentals.
Be responsible and patient.
Yes.
And remember, I'm going to wrap it up. Once in a while, put down your phone, step away from your screen. Oh, I shouldn't do that.
Break your laptop.
Close your laptop. Do something analog, like well, that example that I showed you on YouTube's build your own drone cage match. You can totally do it out of some some plastic barriers and some 3D printed.
Just throw your kids in a locked room with no valuable items.
Or you could do that. And that is your own drone cage match.
Put the cross helmets or face masks on them.
It's really fun.
It's like a face full of drone at high speed.
Oh. Well, if you have guards on them, it won't hurt as much, but I recommend not doing that.
Wear the face mask. I'm Patrick Jordan.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing.
I haven't flown these in so long, I couldn't even find them.
We should also point out that this is perhaps, I think this is one of, if you're wondering why it's not flying so level.
It's probably because of the drone cage match. I love drones, they're so much fun.
Quads, more quadcopters. It's actually really hard to land them.
Yeah. It's pretty cool when you can, like on a solid surface, like a coffee table.
Oh, that's actually part of why it's.
I just like hop around.
Well, I've actually seen Shannon destroy people in a cage match in Las Vegas.
Yes!
In drones.
It was awesome.